Hello, nice to have you with us. Welcome to this week's Talking Royals. I'm Chris Shipp, ITV's royal editor, and with me, as ever, is the brains of the operation, royal producer Lizzie Robinson. Well, I say the brains of the operation. There's a quiz coming up when these brains are going to be tested, but we'll talk to you about that more later in this podcast. It's been a festive week for the royals. Actually, we've got plenty of stories to talk you through this week, haven't we? We should probably start with that big moment at Westminster Abbey. There's nothing... I kind of feel like now we're in the fourth year of Kate's Together at Christmas Carol concert. It's kind of, even though it's filmed in quite early December, it's kind of like the starting gun for Christmas for me now.
Yeah, and the Westminster Abbey looked really beautiful inside. Yeah. I mean, they did an amazing job and it was very festive. And yeah, I think you're right. It does feel like the start of the kind of the Christmas season, particularly for the royal family. Lots of them there supporting the Princess of Wales with her Together at Christmas. Yep. Her own side of the family, the Middleton family, also there en masse to support her. And of course, Prince George, Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis were there as well. Yes,
they all make it along. And actually, for those of you who are watching this podcast, you can see Kate talking to Paloma Faith there, who was one of the performers. Also, Gregory Porter, who... we can let people into a tiny secret. We heard a bit of the rehearsals and he was quite something. His voice in Westminster Abbey was amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to sit in for the Carol concert. Right, Chris had to sit outside in a van.
You were inside watching it and I was outside in the edit van working. Was that right? Is that how it happened?
I think I was your eyes and ears in the service.
Right, okay,
I think that's how we'll put it.
But did you enjoy it? Was it nice?
It was really lovely and... you know, both Paloma and Gregory, the performances were amazing. The acoustics when you're in Westminster Abbey is something else. It really, it's really incredible.
And the kids being there as well, you know, it's quite something. Because they came in, it's odd, isn't it? Because they come with Dad, and then Kate, as you can see here if you're watching this again, comes out and meets them because she's kind of the host. This is my concert. Welcome, guys, to Westminster Abbey, even though it's her husband and 3 kids.
Yeah, so the princess arrives a little bit ahead of them and she meets some of the performers and readers and then some of the congregation. She sort of works her way through the Abbey meeting people and then she goes back outside and meets the Prince of Wales and the children. And
what were they doing on the tree there?
That was known as a kindness tree and people were hanging little notes up on the tree.
Yes. And George's note was spotted, wasn't it? One of the cameras got their... Louis' note, and it was one of the cameras got their long lenses out and because of digital photography now you can read what he wrote.
Yeah, he said
Well, actually I couldn't. I thought his handwriting was terrible.
He's 6, Chris. He's 6.
Sorry, I'm just...
Thank you to Granny and Grandpa, was what the note said. And yes, the three
playing
of them...
with me or playing games
with me. Yeah, I think, you know, the Carol and Michael, who were both there at the concert, they've been an enormous support to the whole Wales family in what's obviously been an incredibly challenging year for them. So, they hung notes. And we also learnt that Louis, even though he's 6, can keep a secret.
Should we have a listen?
Let's have a listen.
Exactly, and he said, what's the secret? I said, Louis, can you keep a secret? Because I wanted to be a surprise for Charlotte, who loves her ballet dancing. And he said, I promise, won't say. And he's kept the secret. This is what, for maybe 2 weeks he's now.
Kept what secret?
So the secret was that during the concert there were performers from the Royal Ballet there, and the Princess said a couple of times in that meet and greet how much Charlotte enjoys her ballet. So Louis kept this in a secret for 2 weeks, which at 6, I think, you know.
I mean, that's quite a responsibility.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah. So that was, and you obviously saw the ballet. How were they good?
Yes. It's
well, we can't play the interview yet, but we've got an interview with Gregory Porter, which we've done, which we'll play out next week. Just the one bit I remember from that, I said to him, what's it like singing in Westminster Abbey? Because I think he just come from a concert in Vienna or something like they do, and you know he sings in massive stadiums and all the rest of it. And I just loved his answer. He says, "Man, this place has got some heft," and it's like, yeah, I suppose that's a really good way of explaining Westminster Abbey. You know, it's got some heft.
Yeah, the Princess of Wales was also talking as well about kind of how much Westminster Abbey means to her personally. She was saying, you know, it's a very special place. It's where she got married, of course.
And she had a conversation. I mean, we heard a little bit of a conversation she had there about Louis' big secret, but actually she was speaking to Paloma Faith about her year. I didn't know I was going to have the year that I just had. So, you know, she kind of addressed because obviously when they recorded this last year, it's entirely possible Kate knew that she was planning some sort of elective surgery in January. That was probably in the diary. We don't know. But what she didn't know was what was going to follow, and the cancer diagnosis and then the chemotherapy.
Yeah, she had that conversation with Paloma, and they talked about the unplanned and the challenging year for not only, I guess, the princess, but also lots of people.
Yeah, and lots of the people there were actually people who have faced challenges.
Yeah, well, I mean, for example, as she worked her way through the congregation, she saw Sir Chris Hoy. He was there with his family. He was lighting a candle, but Sir Chris Hoy said earlier this year that he has cancer and that is terminal. So, you know, people there, as you say, facing their own individual challenges.
And Richard E. Grant, the actor who gave a reading, again, we did an interview with him to be broadcast next week, but his wife died, I think 3 years ago, didn't she, of lung cancer, and he still posts about this is our 4th Christmas without her. You know, so there was a kind of cancer connection throughout.
Yeah, the whole service was all this year about reflecting on love, empathy, and kindness, and lots of those that were invited there had done things that sort of, you know, fulfilled those criteria. And we spoke to Olivia, didn't we, who she works with a charity called From Me to You, and they send letters to cancer patients to make them feel loved and supported. Those letters are anonymous, but Olivia sent one to the Princess of Wales when it was made public earlier this year that she was undergoing preventative chemotherapy, and the Princess has now invited her to the carol concert, and this is what she said.
You just felt compelled to write to her, not as a royal, but as a human being.
It's very easy to distance yourself from the royal family because we don't always see them. We see them often on the TV, and I think actually saying to someone, "I really hope you're all right," and you know, it's not glamorous, and you know, cancer is really a really difficult process to undergo.
And that was Olivia Bowditch, who I thought actually, for someone who, what was she, 18 or 19, I can't remember, at university, and just takes her time out to write letters. And I said to her, "Don't you just text or email or snap people?" And she said, "No, we write them letters because they like to receive a letter from a stranger and to know that we were thinking about them." So I thought that was very sweet. Actually, talking of who was invited, I know that the family of Liz Hatton were invited and did manage to go following her death, and we spoke about that in previous podcasts, and we will talk about the party, we have to call it, not a funeral, that was held in Harrogate on Wednesday of this week. Before we move on from Christmas, though, the Queen did her... I mean, there's lots of Christmassy stuff going on at the moment. The Queen Camilla did and I think it's a lovely event, when she hosts some very, very sick children to decorate the tree in Clarence House. But also, her and the King have had the Military Wives Choir sing to them, and there's a lot of Christmassy stuff going on.
Lots of Christmassy, and we can't forget the Christmas pudding that the Queen helped flambe this week. She rather liberally doused this thing in brandy and told everyone to hold on to their hair. It was set alight. But yeah, they're all feeling quite festive, I think. In the last week, it's all ramped up, hasn't it?
Yeah, I wonder if they have to fill out a risk assessment for the Queen for that. Things that could happen on this visit. Queen may set fire to her hair. To her hair
and guests' hair. Yes, there was quite a lot of brandy by the looks of things.
Well, talking of hair, because Donald Trump's got some, he was meeting...
That is quite a segue.
That was quite... He's got hair.
I wondered where that was going, but there we are.
It's of a particular style, and he met Prince William in Paris. Now, let's take you to the beginning. They were meeting in Paris because both of them were there for the reopening of the beautiful Notre Dame Cathedral. But,
which looked, by the way, just absolutely...
I remember seeing the pictures, 5 years ago when it burnt down. And
looking at the restoration, I mean, it looked absolutely spectacular.
Absolutely wonderful. But when Trump came into it, I think they held the meeting in the British ambassador's residence in Paris, and Trump called him. We had a big debate. Was it big man or good man?
Good man, yeah.
But, well, you have a listen to what you think he said.
Whoa, what a nice group. What is it? Good man, this one.
Yeah, I'm going with good man. I think.
Man.
Now I've listened to it loudly in my ear and in the studio. So he's a good man, this one.
Good man.
So that's quite interesting, because that means William has met the president-elect before the King, before the Prime Minister even. So it allowed Kensington Palace to talk about William's sort of statesman-like role that he's taking on.
So the schedule got thrown up a little bit in the air at the weekend due to some rather bad weather in the UK. We had a Storm Dara, wasn't it?
That's it, yes.
Storm Dara. Anyway, so Prince William was due to meet President-elect Donald Trump and
the First Lady.
Dr. Jill Biden. He was supposed to meet them both before the ceremony, but due to delays because of the weather, he ended up meeting Dr. Jill Biden at the ceremony, and then he saw Donald Trump briefly at the ceremony, and then they had their meeting afterwards. It lasted about 40 minutes. It was described to us as a warm and friendly meeting. They discussed a range of global issues.
I wonder what they talked about.
So what we were told they talked about was a range of global issues, focusing on the special relationship between the two countries, and that Donald Trump shared with Prince William some sort of fond memories of the late Queen
That
Elizabeth.
sounds like the kind of, they call it a readout of the meeting.
Yeah.
That sounds like the kind of readout that the Buckingham, the Kensington Palace and Downing Street and the Foreign Office and the White House have all agreed on.
Yes.
However, Donald Trump then, being Donald Trump, and we'll better get used to this all over again because he's about to be in office for another 4 years, went and spoke about what they spoke about.
He did. So that was sort of what was made public at the time. And then Donald Trump, as you say, spoke to the New York Post and shared some more about what they talked about. He said that they had a great talk, and he spoke to him about both the King and the Princess of Wales. And
in terms of their health, wasn't it? Yeah.
He said that Prince William had said that the Princess of Wales was doing well, and that his father was fighting very hard, and that he loves them both, and therefore it was sad.
Doing well is I mean, no disrespect to Donald Trump, but that is the stock response that William always uses when anyone asks how Kate is. But I think as we saw for ourselves this week at the Carol concert, it certainly does look like she is doing well.
Yeah.
And she goes into the Christmas season because William and Kate will normally spend it at Sandringham. We've been learning a little bit more about who's doing what at Christmas. William spoke about it. Also, Camilla's son, Tom Parker Bowles, was writing an article for the Times newspaper in London this week, saying that he's going to Sandringham and hasn't been before. So,
it's a
different set of family. There's normally just the Windsors.
So Prince William was saying this week that there's about 45 of them at Sandringham, so that's quite some party. But he also revealed he doesn't have a Christmas jumper.
I think that's tragic. Should we send him one?
Shall we?
Yeah.
Do you have a Christmas jumper?
I do. I have two, actually, yes.
OK, well, maybe we'll see one of them for the quiz.
Well, yeah, we'll talk to you about the quiz in a minute. And are you wearing a Christmas jumper for the Christmas quiz? This podcast will be turned into, a pod farce when we do the Christmas
Something festive,
quiz.
certainly.
Charlene's here for it. We have guests as well. We'll give you all the details in just a moment. So, yes, I wonder if the 45 people sitting at Sandringham will be... they could borrow our quiz and they could test one another.
They could.
And then tell us what results they got. Anyway, quiz details coming up. The Elizabeth emblem. Now... There's an Elizabeth Cross for members of the armed forces who die in service, but there's never been, and I found this quite staggering, there's never been an award for members of the police and fire service or other public servants who've died in the line of duty, and that was rectified this week, signed off by the last Conservative government, carried forward by this government. And the King insisted he didn't want his name on it, which would normally be the case because it's in his reign. He wanted it to have his mother's name.
Yeah, I think everyone covering this engagement earlier this week were really surprised, weren't they, that this didn't already exist, but it doesn't. And it does now, and to mark kind of the first emblems being given out. The King gave them out, but in future going forward, they won't be handed out.
Yes, you want to do the first line. Again, if you're watching this, just a reminder, you can listen to us or you can watch us on ITVX. But you're seeing the King right now in Windsor Castle. There were 3 rooms. This is the state dining room. He then went into the the crimson drawing room, and then the green drawing room. Names because one's crimson and one's green. I mean, didn't think too long about those, did they? But there were 37 families. And what struck me was the first family to get this Elizabeth emblem on behalf of their father. He died in 1948. Yeah. And the 2 sons, who are both old men now, that received it were only 5 and 3 at the time of his death.
Yeah, that was Police Constable Nathaniel Edgar, and then it stretched right through, didn't it, until 2019.
Yes.
The emblem was given to Alicia Harper, who was wife of Andrew Harper, who was killed in 2019.
Yes, and that was it. If people remember an incident, it was in the news at the time. He was dragged along the road, wasn't he, when he was trying to stop a getaway vehicle. So yes, 1948 to 2019, 37 of these awards were handed out. More will be handed out, but this one was done by the King because he insisted that he did it.
Yeah, really.
And it took a long time to get through those 3 rooms,
to spend time with all of those families, and I think it meant an awful lot to them. It was really poignant, actually, and really important for them that he spent time with them and spoke to each of them. And the emblem, I was reading, incorporates a rosemary wreath, which is apparently a traditional sign of remembrance.
Right.
And it also has for a life given in service on the emblem.
So the idea behind it actually came from 2 fathers whose daughters were police constables in Manchester who were killed in 2012 when they were ambushed by somebody and shot. Now, one of those fathers, Bryn Hughes, whose daughter was the constable Nicola Hughes, told us just how it made him feel, because he's kind of been campaigning on this for 9 or 10 years, but he was telling us about what it felt for this thing to finally to come to fruition.
To see so many people holding onto those emblems, holding onto these certificates, having met the King, there's an immense feeling of pride and relief there. It's finally come together.
Knowing that the sacrifice has been remembered in this way.
Yes, and each one is equally as tragic and as sad as like Nicola and Fiona that day.
And it's equally and as tragic and as sad, and it wasn't just police officers, because we spoke to Rebecca Lombard-Earl, who had a sister called Fleur. She was in the fire service. I think, weren't you telling me that she was the first female firefighter to die in peacetime?
Yeah.
And that was back in 1996. Again, a long time ago, and these people haven't had this award. They've now got one. And she was emotional, wasn't she, when she spoke to us about receiving this on behalf of her sister?
They get up to go to work. Their family expects them to come home for their tea, and sometimes the worst thing possibly happens and they don't.
Yeah, Rebecca talking there about her sister who died in 1996. But actually, it was a really busy time for the King. That week he's been busy a lot, hasn't he? He's getting a lot of things on before Christmas, and then they go into their Christmas break.
Yep. And the King will spend Christmas at Sandringham.
Yeah.
As William said, there's 45 there. The King will be one of them. And then after...
They get January off, don't they? All
yeah, and he will go to Scotland for some of that time that he has off.
Before we go, actually, let's just mention about where I went yesterday, which was to, and we're not allowed to call it a funeral. Her mum insisted we call it a party. We went to the party to remember Liz Hatton. This was in Harrogate in North Yorkshire. Liz, we told you about on this podcast just a few weeks ago, was, if you remember, she met Kate at Windsor Castle. There was that photo of the 2 of them embracing, and sadly, she lost her battle with cancer a couple of weeks ago. Her mum didn't have a funeral because she has donated her body to medical research. So instead of that, she put on 50 of Liz's photographs and all the amazing things that she did, particularly in the towards the end of her life. And at this exhibition in Harrogate, it was a really special moment. And the pictures that you're seeing now, again, if you're watching the podcast, is when Liz there with her little brother Matteo and her mum and dad met William and Kate at Windsor Castle, and but the exhibition was all her photos, and it was really very moving, and lots of people turned up.
Yeah, and her mum spoke about how it was going to be all Liz's favourite things at the party.
Lemon drizzle cake.
Lemon drizzle cake. There were discos.
Salt and vinegar discos.
Is that right?
Yep, and lots of sweets. And this is when she was got the opportunity to go and film the musical Six, and she had loads and loads of opportunity in that sort of those final stages of her life. Actually, her mum said to me yesterday she was able to fulfil a lot of those opportunities because sadly her chemo had stopped working, and therefore she had no treatment to get back for, and she just filled her final weeks. So her mum said she ended her life flying high.
She really embraced every second of her life, didn't she? I mean, the amount that she packed in those final weeks was, I think she's a real inspiration, actually.
And I will say, because I promised her mum I would do this, if you just search Just Giving and Liz Hatton, or Just Giving and desmoplastic small round cell tumour, as her brother taught me to say yesterday, is the very rare disease that Liz had. So search that and make a donation if you want to. Let's just have a listen to what her mum said to me when we spoke about her daughter at this party for her in Harrogate on Wednesday.
We try very hard to keep it together as much as we can now. It's harder now. She's not here, but yeah.
Not allowed to cry. Remember?
Not allowed to cry, and when you do, you better get yourself up, pick yourself up and do something positive, because that's what Liz would do.
Yeah. And I had a piece of lemon drizzle cake because you would expect me to, and it was a real honour to be there. Now, and our thoughts, of course, are with Liz's family as they go into this very difficult time of year.
Absolutely.
Now, listen, I said earlier in the podcast that we will give you details of what we are doing for Christmas. Not a normal podcast, but something a little bit different, a Christmas quiz.
We're going to go head to head.
Charlene's going to host it. I'm not sure what this is going to be like. Is it going to be a bit like The Chase? Is it going to be like catchphrase? Have we got big buzzers in this studio? You know that noise?
Is that the noise you're going to make when you know the answer?
Have I got to make the noise myself?
Maybe. I don't know if we've actually got a buzzer, but
I think the technical team, they're telling me in my ear they've been working very hard on this, and there are buzzers. Yeah.
So better get revising.
Right. So you are with Russell Myers, who is the royal editor of the Daily Mirror.
Yep.
A man you might have seen on your television a lot. I'm with Kate Mancy, who's the royal editor of the Times newspaper. And may the best team win.
Get revising.
Yes, revising. I think it depends on the questions that we get asked. If
it's from the last
about
year.
The name of King Edward VII's wife, I might
You're
be
the man.
okay. If they want to know who, I don't know, Zara Tyndall's 3 kids are,
then I'm okay.
Yeah, so it really will depend on the questions. Is there any way we can influence these questions?
It's from the last year.
Right, okay.
All the questions will be from the last year.
That's fine for you then. So there's nothing from 1846?
No, nothing.
Like when was Balmoral built? And,
no,
okay.
no, nothing like that, I'm afraid.
Well, I think we all know who's going to win this quiz.
No, not necessarily.
Right, anyway. Well, I'm hoping that my
teammate,
co-team member will lift my scores. That's why I chose Kate. So she could become a regular on this podcast as well if she does well. If she makes me win, I'll invite her back. Put it that way. So
sack me.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right, let's see.
The podcast will all be changed next year. Thank you, Lizzie, and thank you very much for joining us at Talking Royals this week. As we said, a Christmas special coming up, so please join us for that, and we'll let you know when it's out, and you can get it on wherever you get your podcasts. Of course, this podcast is available on ITVX and any other podcast platform. But until we see you for the Christmas special, thanks for being with us.